Bethany Meola is the co-founder with her husband Dan of Life-Giving Wounds, a Catholic ministry to help adult children of divorce find healing. She graduated with a Master of Theological Studies. She graduated with a Master of Theological Studies degree from the St. John Paul II Institute for Studies on Marriage and the Family and served at the United States Conference of Catholic Bishops for 7 years. These days, her primary focus is caring for her children, Zelly, Grace, and Josie, and homeschooling. You can connect with Bethany at www.lifegivingwounds.org or at bethany@lifegivingwounds.org. Bethany, thank you so much for being here with me and welcome to the Joy of Transformation.
Great. Thank you, Kathy.
You're so welcome. I'm really excited about this conversation because it's a topic that hasn't gotten touched on yet. And I've been doing this for almost 2 years now, and it hasn't gotten even mentioned. So I'm really happy for that. And I hope that there are listeners that, and I believe there will be because it is very common. Um, so I want to ask you, first of all, before we get started, if you could share with us some of your faith journey. Obviously, your faith is a part of your life and different things that you've done. So I always like to start with that question if you would like to share some of that with us.
Sure. Yeah, I'd be happy to. Well, I guess the biggest thing about my faith journey is that I am a convert to the Catholic faith. I wasn't raised Catholic. I was raised in a very strong Christian home, but not Catholic. We kind of hopped around a couple different contradictory denominations, which is interesting to look back on. But I became really interested in the Catholic faith in college and just really had this strong desire to learn everything I could, just about my faith in general, kind of that young adult exploring who am I, time in life. And just in a nutshell, I think the things that drew me the most to the Catholic faith, number one was the Eucharist. Once I really kind of understood what did Catholics teach about the Eucharist, it was just so convicting. Like, if that really is Jesus, like that's where I want to be. And I feel like God gave
Right.
me just such a beautiful gift of faith at a very particular moment, to truly believe this is Jesus present in the Eucharist. And from there, that was kind of my point of no return. I
Mhm.
couldn't be anywhere else other than where Jesus in the sacraments, he is.
Mhm.
But then the other thing related to our conversation is I also felt very moved by what the Catholic Church said about marriage and family. I encountered theology of the body in college, had never even heard of St. John Paul II. It was all entirely new to me. And just reading and learning about what the church had to teach about love, commitment, sexuality. It was so compelling. So that was another big reason that I just felt like it was so coherent of a message and so
Mhm.
beautiful, that really drew me to the Catholic faith. And that very much influenced my decision to go on to study theology, particularly study marriage and family. That's where I met my husband at the John Paul II Institute. And we like to joke, we went there, got our degrees in marriage, also got married. Took some wedding pictures right by the sign, marriage and family studies.
Aw.
So really be that aspect of our faith's teaching, has been so important and really like has lended itself into my particular career path and then the work that we do now with Life-Giving Wounds, which is so focused on the beautiful teaching that our church has about marriage,
Yeah.
and care for those when that teaching is not able to be lived out for any variety of reasons. Care for the children that are involved is really the focus of our ministry.
Wow. Is there anything, because I have had a couple guests that also are very much taken by the theology of the body. Um, is there any uh, parts of that stand out to you that you think would be helpful for listeners that maybe don't know anything about it? Anything that stands out to you that you'd like to share about that?
Gosh, yeah. I mean, there's so much. I think one thing that's always been really convicting is when John Paul II reads Genesis, through the words of Jesus when he's talking to the Pharisees, Jesus is directing them back to the beginning. In the beginning, it was not so, and directing us back to how God originally intended marriage and family to be lived. It really struck me as I was first learning about it. I'm like, this is such a high calling. Marriage is not just a piece of paper. It's not just background of your life. If you are called to that vocation of marriage, what a tremendous calling and gift that is.
Hmm.
And also the gift that Jesus gives us that we can do this. Because so
Hmm.
often, even as a married person myself, we're coming up on 15 years of marriage. And there are plenty of times I'm like, man, this is hard. It's
Hmm.
hard
Hmm.
to live out the church's call to be faithful and fruitful and open to our spouse and just all the things that go into marriage. It's not easy, but
Hmm.
having that foundational conviction that it is possible, that God gives
Hmm.
us the strength. That was what was intended in the Garden of Eden, going back to the original goodness that existed before original sin. I think that gives a lot of hope.
Hmm.
A lot of hope against a tendency towards cynicism, which I know can be so common in many marriages, or even just in our work with adult children of divorce. It can be really difficult to overcome that sense of like, how can anybody stay married? How is this even possible?
Hmm.
So that's just one out of so many things that John
Yeah.
Paul II gives us in Theology of the Body.
Awesome. Thank you. And then I do have another question too. So before you became Catholic, it sounds like you were practicing as a Christian. It was a part of your life. Is that
Yes.
correct?
Yep. Hmm.
Okay. So you're always kind of like searching and practicing and committed to the Word of God and those types of things. But it was when you were introduced to Catholicism that you felt like this is the church that I'm going to be able to live out my faith the best. Is that kind of?
Yes. I mean, I'm so grateful that my parents gave me a love for Jesus, from a
Hmm.
very early age. So grateful for that. Um, for me, I feel like one of the biggest gifts of being Catholic is there's so much more. We have seven sacraments,
Hmm.
all the saints, all the devotions, the history, all the way back to Jesus, just that sense of being able to rest in that richness of our faith while
Hmm.
being completely honoring the faith of our brothers and sisters who also love Jesus, and
Hmm.
it's really a gift to have that commonality, even while I'm just really grateful that, I can go to the Eucharist, go to confession, have all of those sacraments
And
available.
honestly, it's refreshing for me to connect with Catholics that are converts from other Christian faiths because I think in some ways our Catholic verbiage becomes very different and it's beautiful, but and it's kind of like intellectual. Like you have to understand some things and I don't always feel like people talk about the basic, my love for Jesus, my personal relationship with Christ. I feel like those are more non-denominational types of ways of saying things. Do you know what I mean? And I think that that is so important for us as Catholics to embrace that and just speak of that simple, beautiful, personal relationship with Christ that's really at the core of everything. And I think that's one of the things that non-Catholics practicing, Christians have a tendency to speak in that way more. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, I definitely know what you mean. Yeah, it's so important always to go back to our roots, like what really is at the heart of what we're doing here, why we're going to mass, why we
Hmm.
believe what we believe. It is Jesus and his gift of himself to us. So
Hmm.
yeah, that's a beautiful point.
Yeah, and somebody had shared on an episode previously that I think at the turn of the century, Catholics were being prosecuted or persecuted. I'm sorry, Catholics were being persecuted, and so it wasn't a good habit for them to talk a lot about their faith because of the persecutions that were going on. And so they got in the habit of not speaking as openly about it. And so I feel like this is God's way. So many people coming to the Catholic faith that have either left or never were a part of it. I think bringing that testimony and that conversation back in more of an open forum type of, day-to-day life is really important. So thank you for that.
Sure.
The next thing that I wanted to ask you is where does your passion come from to serve children of divorce? Was there anywhere specifically that this you feel like it started?
Yeah, so my husband is a child of divorce. His parents split up when he was 11, and then they finally got divorced when he was 26, the year that we got married. So, and I met him in graduate school, and we dated, fell in love, got engaged, all of that. And it was very eye-opening for me because I don't come from a background. My parents are still together, thanks be to God. Um, they had their own struggles. They actually separated twice when I was growing up, but they were able to reconcile, which I am continually grateful for. So meeting Dan and kind of seeing the thing, learning from him about the things that he had experienced as a child of divorce, was really eye-opening for me. And then as we were discerning, where's the Lord calling us to in our marriage, in his career, as he was finishing up his doctorate at the John Paul II Institute, it just became really clear that the Holy Spirit was putting on both of our hearts to try to do something more, provide something more for people like Dan, who their parents had split up. He really struggled to find support for that. He found a number of really wonderful priests that became real father figures to him, but it was very piecemeal, and we just knew there's so many people out there that were really looking for something from our faith, from the church, to speak very specifically into the challenges they were facing as children of divorce. So really see it as a Holy Spirit moment and just saying, take this leap of faith, step forward. The Lord will open doors, and it's been a beautiful experience now founding Life Giving Wounds. We're now present in 20 something states, 30 something chapters around the United States and in Canada,
Wow.
doing online ministry, in-person ministry. We wrote a book. That's our book.
What is the
So
name of it?
it's Life Giving Wounds, a Catholic guide to healing for adult children
Wow.
of divorce or separation. So
Wow.
just seeing where the Lord is taking our own passion for people again, like Dan, like all the wonderful people we've met through Life Giving Wounds, and wanting to have a place that children of divorce can turn to,
Wow.
that wasn't really existing in the church in a systematic way, previously.
Wow, that's incredible. And not only is it incredible that he experienced that, but that you experienced your parents having two separations, so you probably could empathize with him more than somebody that didn't have that experience.
Yeah,
And then
possibly, yeah.
and then for you both to be now St. John Paul II, right, was the university you attended. And so what is his degree in? Is his also in marriage and family?
A theology degree, yeah, with the
Theology.
focus of marriage and family. Mhm.
Awesome. That's just so incredible. And it makes me think of, how God makes beauty from ashes. Like we can suffer and when we can use those experiences to serve others.
Yes, yeah,
Wow.
definitely. I mean, that's really where the inspiration of the name Life-Giving Wounds comes from. We
Mm-hmm.
we actually talk a lot in our book and in our ministry about redemptive suffering, because it's like when you face something like your parents divorcing, that may not find a resolution or a fix on earth. It just may
Mm-hmm.
not, and that's
Mm-hmm.
some people's parents do end up reconciling, very rare. Even when that happens, there's been a lot of pain. So, like, what do we do when there's a suffering that is not going to be completely taken care of on earth?
Mm-hmm.
And that's where we found, like, wow, like our faith gives us so much beautiful insight through this idea of redemptive suffering, how we
Mm-hmm.
can share, we can enter into that suffering, we can join it with the suffering of Christ. And God can bring beauty and hope and healing out of it, through it, not
Yeah.
going around it, not trying to avoid it, really entering in.
Mm-hmm.
But even just to use one example, we've been so touched by so many children of divorce who are able to get married, and their marriages are so beautiful and intentional, largely because they had
Yeah.
that experience of seeing everything that they went through as children, never wanting to do that again.
Yeah.
So having a resilience and just a greater intentionality in their marriages as a way to see something beautiful has come out of this suffering that nobody wanted, nobody asked for, but it's there. And so what do you do with it? So yeah, I think I mean, we see that, I see that every day with my husband, the way
Yeah.
that he's been able to enter into his own grief and pain, and now using his entire profession, his career, his,
Yeah.
his livelihood, to help others like him. And God, I just don't know what we would do without our faith in these
Yeah.
moments, of profound
It's
suffering.
so beautiful. And my family, has been alcoholism and dysfunction in our family. And I feel like because I experienced those things, There are things that I'm more aware of that can lead to trouble that I would say that my husband maybe wouldn't be as aware of because he didn't experience that. So
Mhm.
it's kind of similar to like what you're saying. And people that have been through divorce as a child, like you're saying, especially when they can tend to and take care of the needs that they have, they can actually choose transformation in like a beautiful, beautiful way and like use that for the good. And yeah, I love that. I love all that you're doing. Um, what is a common obstacle related to healing for adult children of divorce?
So there's a couple wounds that we talk about in Life Giving Wounds, not meant to be exhaustive, but a few that we really dive deeply into are the wound of silence. So first of all, a sense that, is this even something I can feel sad about? A lot of children of divorce have tried to share their pain with people. Maybe that hasn't been received well, or they get a lot of what some people call divorce happy talk. This was all for the best. You have two families now, and kind of just not even finding a place to grieve or not feeling like it's okay to grieve. That's kind of a place to start to just recognize it is okay to feel sad that your parents are no longer together. It is really
Mhm.
okay. It's okay
Mhm.
even if you have a good relationship with both of them, even if things are okay in your life on a surface level or even deeper. Like no matter what, it's okay to grieve that loss of your parents' love together. So we
Mhm.
kind of start there and have found a lot of fruit, even from folks that join us on retreat or support groups, feeling like they're given the permission to be sad about it and
Mhm.
grieve. So that's one thing. We also look at the ways that having your parents divorce affects your faith. It can definitely bring up those big questions that any suffering brings up, like where was God in all of this? How did God allow this to happen? I mean, those are deep, important questions to have to wrestle with. On top of that, there can be a sense of, maybe your parents were both churchgoers and then still got divorced, like how? Like how did the church not play a part in keeping my parents together? A sense of hypocrisy can be something that children of divorce struggle with. And just a sense of, okay, especially if there's not a good relationship with your father, how do I relate to God the Father? That can be affected. So we really kind of look at those faith issues because we see that as at the heart of healing is restoring that relationship with God, knowing that you're loved, knowing that He is present with you in all of that suffering, that God has not abandoned you. We also look at the question of identity. So much of our identity has to do with where do we come from? And when that origin breaks apart, the two people that I come from no longer can even stand each other, or one has
Mhm.
rejected the other. What does that mean about me? As I look in the mirror, I see my parents reflected there. My last name has a connection with them. All those questions about who am I? Where is my home, both physically and also more existentially, like where do I belong in this fractured situation? And then I'll just conclude, there's so much more, but
Yeah.
just the effect on relationships. The marriage rate has really plummeted. Cohabitation rate has gone up in recent years. Think a good part of that has to do with broken families, and very understandably the kids from those families really questioning, like, do I want to get married? Is this even possible? Is it worth it? Can I do it? I haven't seen it modeled in my life. Just having a lot of fear, anxiety about those relationships. We see that a lot, and we really talk about that a lot. How can I, instead of repeating my parents' mistakes, how can I find that inner strength to do something differently and really have the hope and confidence that it is possible?
Yeah.
So those are just some of the things that we try to get into with a lot of specificity and depth in our programming in our book.
Okay. It was interesting. One of the first things that you said was that they don't always feel that they can grieve or feel sad. You could see how that would very easily happen because when that decision is made by the parents, thinking that they're doing what is best, even though it's painful for them, it's a loss for them too. Thinking that they're doing what is best for them and for their children, it's probably so hard to see your children suffer. So then you're trying to help. So it's like you don't want to see your children suffer. So but you're also suffering at the same time. So it seems like there's a need for outside help because everybody is probably grieving and experiencing this loss, just like as if it was a death in the family. Everybody's experiencing. And so it seems like something like that you offer from the outside, or even, you know, counseling, one-on-one counseling or things like that for family. It seems like that would really benefit. And all those different, so you did kind of get into a little bit how you're able to support them, but is there any details on the type of work that you do in supporting and assisting them through these things?
Yeah.
Okay.
What we offered as far as our ministry is we have a retreat. We have a 3-day retreat that we've just seen so much beautiful fruit from adult children of divorce coming, getting to share with other people who have had similar backgrounds, even with a lot of variety, but that shared experience of seeing your parents split up, or maybe they were never together to begin with. And our retreats are led by adult children of divorce. We see that also as very fruitful to be able to really share their own experiences. It's a peer-to-peer ministry. So again, really going deep into what are the places that I've been hurt by this, starting to name them, starting to take them to the Lord wherever a person may be on that journey of healing. And starting to provide some insight, if they're really feeling wounded in your faith life, finding some ways to see God as a faithful father, that our families on earth reflect who God the Father is, but they're not the same. And God the Father is always faithful. The sense of mentorship is really important. So just being able to even provide on our retreat weekends examples of children of divorce that have gone through so many of those wounds and the ways that they've found healing, through friendship, through good mentors in their life, through the sacraments. Just there's so much that's available to us in our faith as tools for healing. You could put it that way. Um, and just that the ongoing relationships, it's been really beautiful to see over the last couple of years, just even on our retreat weekends, people connecting with each other and then having somebody, they're like, okay, I'm not alone here. It can feel very lonely,
Mm-hmm.
both because it's not always talked about what it's been like being a child of divorce. And even though there are so many people, more than half of kids today are going to see their parents split up at some point. It is
Mm-hmm.
not a small number of people. But because it's not talked about much, or maybe in your Catholic church, you feel like, I don't want to bring this up, like I feel awkward, or people are going to look at me different. Just being For us, being able to provide connections between children of divorce that are wanting to heal, has been amazing. I mean, it's been so
Yeah.
beautiful to see that. Yeah.
Yeah. And it seems like a couple things that it seems like adult children of divorce may have things they struggle with that they don't even realize could be related to that experience that they went through. And
Yes,
by hearing
definitely.
other people speak on in their stories, they're able to connect that and make sense of that. And I know just taking that time for retreats to kind of tend to certain areas of your life and connect with other people that understand is extremely valuable in itself. But then also, I wonder if because there is such a large number of people that do go through divorce, if adult children of divorce might feel like, oh, this happens to most people, like it shouldn't be that big of a problem for me. And so then maybe they don't always see what they went through as much of a struggle as it was. Do you see?
That's yeah, you hit the nail on the head. Yeah, because it is so common. It's really hard to grapple with the immensity, with the
Mhm.
the the sheer number of people that have seen their parents split up. In some communities, it's almost everyone. I mean, we've met people that they're like, I don't actually know a married couple that's lasted. I like
Wow.
literally don't know a couple.
Hmm.
So yeah, it's hard to even comprehend the amount of pain that has caused. And
Hmm.
I think that's one of the challenges. And then it's so big that it's hard. It feels impossible to address.
Yeah.
And even for the kids themselves, again, yeah, if they look around, they see all their peers, like everybody's gone through this. Like they seem fine. Like, what's wrong with me that inside I'm not? And I mean, there's
Hmm.
a lot of studies out there about external consequences, kids who are doing worse in school or struggle with drugs and all of those things that are
Hmm.
obviously extremely important. And there's connections there with both broken families and also high transition between families. But so much what we feel is missed is often that interior struggle. And Dan shares this a lot himself. He's like, look, I'm successfully married. I have a PhD, my life is good. Like, but
Hmm.
there's so much that I've struggled with on the inside that I really needed to address. I mean, and that's true in some way for all of us.
Hmm.
There's always more going on underneath the surface than we realize.
Hmm.
But it's been an amazing blessing to provide a space, particularly for children of divorce, to be able to go under that surface, kind of drop the
Yeah.
mask for a while, be able to relate heart to heart, go into that pain and that grief, but then feel like, okay, I can do this because I'm not alone. Jesus is
Yeah.
here. I have other people here. It feels less overwhelming if I know that it's not just me having to face this huge thing in my
Yeah.
life.
And it's like letting those things that like we all have things that we maybe feel guilt or shame over. And it's like when it's kept in the dark and we keep it a secret or we don't do anything to care for it, it just festers. And then when we can have a safe place, like, you know, the programs that you and your husband are providing where people can actually, listen and share and feel like it's a safe place for them to do that and bringing it out into the open, then it can be tended to and it can be worked on. But when it's just kept inside and just people just figure they have to just get through it on their own, I think that that's probably the worst place for any of us dealing with anything that,
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
we're struggling with. Um, Anything else you want to share about that? Because I do want to move on to the your involvement with the United States Conference of Catholic Bishops, but I'm just wondering if there's anything else that you wanted to add to that. I will ask you for some words of wisdom at the end, so you don't have to, but it's just such a important topic that I just wanted to make sure that you didn't have anything else you wanted to add before we move on.
Well, I mean, I could talk and talk and talk. So, yeah, definitely like it's our shared family's passion. I think just the one other thing to add maybe related to a recent point is it's also been beautiful for us to see. We've been able to encounter a lot of seminarians, priests, religious sisters who come to us who come from a background their parents got divorced, which can
Mhm.
have its extra challenges because sometimes they feel like, okay, what like I gotta look like I have it all together. I have to look like I'm not vulnerable. I'm a leader here. And it's been amazing to see them like be able to also drop their guard and find their healing. And then thinking of those that they will then impact. Because we all like my hope and dream is that our church can be a place where anybody with a suffering can go and receive that care and attention.
Mhm.
And I think that is the case often, but not always. So it's also been beautiful. We're trying to change even the culture of our parishes, of our churches that will be more open to those who are wounded, and not write it off, not just instantly, put on a happy face and let's give some spiritual platitudes and we're good. But also have some, like, just have that deep sense of God's power of healing. And I think there's a lot
Mhm.
of encouraging signs in our church for that.
Yeah.
So I feel like we're hopefully a part of that to grow in that way as a church.
Okay. And the other thing I was wondering is if you can share any of the positive outcomes that you've seen, any of the hope, just to give people a sense of hope of like what happens when you do. I mean, besides your own story and your husband, you and your husband's own story, are there any stories or experiences that stand out to you that you just find to be very hopeful, maybe that you would like to share?
Yes, yeah,
Okay.
yeah, definitely. It's been such a gift. Gosh, there's so many. I mean, sometimes a success could be a person is decides to go to counseling. We see that as a success. Be like, okay, I'm gonna take this step and really kind of intentionally address this, into the future. That's beautiful to see, having that courage to do that.
Mhm.
Definitely in the realms of relationships. I feel like most of the weddings we've gone to recently have been alumni of our program,
Wow.
which is always like so amazing to get to go to their weddings. But even when both people have had an experience of going through one of our retreats and feeling like that's really helped them to say yes to engagement and say yes to marriage with more confidence and hope, that's been
Wow.
beautiful. I just mentioned those in consecrated life. It's been amazing too to have new priest kind of let us know how helpful it's been for them to address some of those wounds that they maybe have never addressed before. Then all the way on the flip side, I mean, our program is for 18 on up, and it's been beautiful too to see folks in their 70s and 80s be able to come be like, their parents may have passed on, but still never felt like they really could address
Wow.
this. And seeing the hope that that's given them, even in their
Yeah.
elderly years. So, gosh, everything in between. I mean,
You're all your
yeah.
a couple times throughout this conversation as you're talking, I could just feel myself like wanting to just like I feel like I'm welling up like with emotion. Like it's such a needed it's just so hard for so many people. I think that when we don't go through that, we don't realize the pain that other people are suffering.
Yeah,
And I
yeah.
think that what you're doing is probably life changing. I'm sure it's life changing for so many people. So, I mean, I know people that have been through divorce, but I do also know a lot of families that have not. In the community that I live in, we are pretty blessed that there are a lot of friends and family and neighbors that have been married for a very long time. And so that's been a blessing, you know. But and even though you might acknowledge other people's suffering or their pain, you can never truly understand exactly what it's like for them, you know? So yeah, I'm so grateful for this conversation. Um, how did you get involved with the United States Conference of Catholic Bishops?
Yeah, that's it feels like forever ago now, honestly. But yeah, I was there from about 2007 to oh gosh, no, 2010 to 2017. That was my first job out of grad school. I mean,
Wow.
our grad school is in DC, literally across the street from the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops. So
Wow.
I think I applied to like 19 teaching jobs and one job at the USCCB, and that's the job I got. So I'm like, all right, Lord, we'll give this a try. In the marriage and family office, it was an amazing experience. I mean, getting to interact with and serve our bishops on a regular basis and just
Wow.
see more firsthand all the things that they're, having to handle and lead. And that was really cool. I got to work a lot on the 4-year marriage initiative to just have the bishops provide more concrete and practical support for couples as they were getting married. A lot of kind of marriage catechesis sort of things, which was, I mean, I was just amazed to get a job in my theology degree because
Yeah.
that's not always a given. So yeah, that was a really blessed 7 years. And then I left because we adopted our oldest daughter, and I was able to be at home with her. So excellent career move at that point too. But yeah, it was amazing, and we still keep in touch with people, all over the country that I met during that time, who also have been incredibly instrumental with helping to spread life-giving wounds. To
Wow.
have that vision of like, yeah, we need something like this is a perfect complement to what we're doing.
When did life-giving wounds start?
Officially 2020,
Okay.
became a nonprofit right during the pandemic. Amazing
Okay.
time to start a new endeavor, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, officially 2020, we've been a official nonprofit that long, but we had done a few retreats in certain formats before then. But we're 6 years old now.
Wow. Wow. It really is. And I always say this throughout these interviews, how each story is so unique and how God puts us in certain places for a reason. And,
Mhm.
the fact that you and your husband, were both at that same type of college together and you were right across the street from, the Conference of Bishops, and then all those connections with what you're doing now, I'm sure, like you said, has helped it grow. And it's again such a needed service and program organization that you lead. So yeah, that's incredible. um how are you able to apply all that you have learned to the care of your own family now?
Yeah, I love that question. Gosh, I would say the biggest thing because it's difficult to look at how divorce affects people. It's sad, it's tragic, it's an injustice, like all those things you can say. That definitely has given myself and Dan just kind of an added motivation to, okay, what do we want our family to look like? Like, obviously, we never ever are going to have our kids experience what children of divorce have experienced. But even beyond that, just that special intentionality, both in our marriage and then with our parenting. And just knowing how important that stability is for kids, knowing that their mom and dad love each other, just kind of the opposite of so many things that we see in our ministry. And I find that like not, and we're certainly not alone in that. I had mentioned it, earlier in the conversation, just as we've seen so often as a person grows in awareness of maybe how they've been affected by their parents' divorce, just that increased desire to live in a different way.
Hmm.
And I just think that's incredible. And I think that's a culture changing sort of thing. The more that people are given the chance to really focus on their own healing. And then just the blessing that's going to be for everybody in their life. Whether or not a person ends up getting married is called to that, just having that outlook of I want to live differently.
Hmm.
And so that's been a big impact in our lives too.
Wow, wonderful. Bethany, well, actually, I'm going to ask you one last question, and I know if you want to just mention your book one more time and where people can find that, that would be
Sure.
great if you
Yep.
can do
Yeah.
that
The
now.
Yep. Title is Life Giving Wounds: A Catholic Guide to Healing for Adult Children of Divorce or Separation. The book is published through Ignatius Press. So wherever you can find Ignatius books, bookstores, their website, that's a place that you can find it. Obviously Amazon, and then our website too. And I will say, purchased off of our website, the funds directly contribute to our ministry's work.
Wonderful.
So plenty of places to find that. And on
Wonderful.
our website, we have a large and growing calendar of all the events that we're doing all around the country, the different retreats, support groups, in person, online. We have a great blog that it just really gets into so many different topics that
Awesome.
children of divorce care about. So I definitely recommend our website for anyone who's listening is like, oh, this kind of piqued my interest, whether that's my background or I
Yeah.
love someone who's a child of divorce.
Yeah.
It's a great place to start.
Yeah, and I will put the links in the show notes so people can actually just click on it and take it right, take them right to your
Oh,
website.
great,
So,
great.
okay. And then just one last question. Are there any last words of encouragement, support, or wisdom that you would like to share with adult children of divorce who might be struggling?
Yes. The word I would want to share is from St. John Paul II, be not afraid. And I would say, be not afraid to face the ways that you may have been wounded. Be not afraid to go there. I pray that everyone who has that desire on their heart for healing can find the right people to walk alongside them during that. And I would say, be not afraid to embrace that time, whether you're at the point you're just starting to grieve your parents' divorce or thinking about different ways that it's impacted you. You are not broken goods. You're not faulty. All we love just giving the message of hope and encouragement because so often it can feel like, ugh, what do I have to offer? I'm so wounded. I have so many issues or whatever the case may be. And just having that courage that the Lord has a plan for each and every one of us, and a plan of great beauty and redemption that can come out of whatever suffering that we've experienced in our lives.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. I can't wait to share this. I hope you have well, this will come out a couple days after Mother's Day, but I hope you have a wonderful Mother's Day
Thank you. You as
and
well.
good luck and God bless with all the great work that you and your husband are doing.
Great. Thank you, Kathy.
You're welcome.